in this session, what we're going to go over is having a look at your task, why it's really important to read your assignment task thoroughly rather than just sort of skimming over it, because there is lots of really great hidden information in there. Knowing what terms to search with, and that's a really important part of effective searching, is making sure that you're pulling out the right terms. Searching for library resources, why you would use the library resources versus any other resources, and particularly specialized resources that we have in the library, and where to find help, which is a really important thing. I don't want anybody going away from this session and thinking that it ends here. The library has so many options as far as contacting us if you have further questions. So we will have a look at some of those as well. And then, as I said, at the very end of the session, there'll be probably, I don't know, 20 odd minutes where if you have any questions, you are welcome to give them to us in the Q&A section at the end as well. So why use library resources? There are a few sort of really obvious reasons that you might use library resources in your assignments. So for example, we have the fact that there are no paywalls. If you're looking for information and you use something like Google Scholar, for example, then often you'll find a resource that might look great, but when you try and access it, then it'll try and get money out of you. Obviously, that's not an issue when you are searching within the library collection. Additionally, though, not all information is good information. So the information that you find out widely across the internet, for example, that's coming from a lot of different sources, a lot of different directions, and it's just kind of noise. What the library resources are is an actual kind of curated collection. So everything that is in the library collection has been actually selected and put together for reasons that either it is high quality or specifically supports something that we teach at the university. So if you're using library resources, there is a far better chance that they are going to be good quality resources than if you were using just stuff that you have found on the internet. Okay. Moving on though, say you've found your love of the library. How do you go about finding the information that you need? The really key part of actually getting started in your research, though, is firstly reading your assignment really deeply, okay? So it's not just about the actual task itself. There is always that kind of surface level, do this, it might be an essay topic, or it might be that one line that says what it is that you've got to be doing. But there is so much more hidden in there that you need to find in order to be able to really get the best marks. Okay, so you see here I've said that it's more than the task itself. The second point is to read the rubric. Now, I don't know if you're all in the habit of reading the rubrics. It's so important though. Things like when you're looking for library resources, often the rubric will actually specify how many resources you need to include. Now, not always, but for example, if you're looking at a rubric and you can see that an HD says 4 to 6 journal articles, and a distinction says 2 to 4 journal articles referenced, and a pass says 1 to 2 journal articles, then obviously that's a good indicator of how many you want to be using. And I would say always aim for the high distinction. I mean, just because you might be sitting at a distinction average, or you might be happy with a distinction, doesn't mean that you don't want to get those easy marks from using the the rubric to actually steer you in the best possible direction. Often there is an indicator in there of what types of resources you should be using as well. So do they need to be within a particular age? Sometimes the rubric will actually say, you know, current resources or less than 5 years old or something along those lines. It might say that they need to be peer reviewed. Now, for those of you who don't know what peer review means, it means that before a piece of research has been published, it gets sent to a journal, and a journal will provide that research to a panel of peers, and they will have a look at it and see whether or not things like the conclusions drawn or the methodologies used, everything in there makes sense. So peer-reviewed articles are going to be the best possible resources that you can actually use for your assignments. And that's why sometimes the rubric will actually specify that you need to be using peer-reviewed. And I will show you in this session how to make sure that you are filtering to include peer-reviewed articles as well. And then lastly is the referencing. The referencing that is covered at the university is pretty wide. We have a lot of different referencing styles. The only way to actually know what you need to be using for your assignment is to really thoroughly read the assignment task. Okay? Any questions about any of that? Nope. Happy days.
Happy days.
Okay. So the first thing that we've got is to start by picking apart your assessment task. And so your assessment task will usually be broken up into 3 different parts. So you'll have an action word, a keyword, the keywords in there, and then the limiting words. And pulling it apart and identifying which of these are which is the very first step when you're actually planning out how to effectively search in something like the library search. So I've got a bit of an example here, and this is just an old essay task from way back when, so I don't believe that it's a current assignment. It says, discuss the impact of social media on business marketing in Australia. And if you think back to what I was just saying about there being action words, keywords, and limiters, what that then looks like if we pull apart this particular topic is something like this. So we have our discuss, which is the action word, and the action word is what tells you what to do with the information once you have found it. So in this particular instance, we're going to discuss, but it could be compare and contrast, it could be analyze, it could be evaluate. We have some really good resources throughout the university about different types of action words, but I believe they sit with academic skills. So it'd be worth going off and having a look at their pages if you wanted some more information about those action words. Then from that topic, we have social media and business marketing, and they are our keywords. So the keywords are what your assignment is actually about, and they're the terms that you start with when you're actually doing your searching. Okay, so when it comes to I'll just go back to our previous topic, discuss the impact of social media on business marketing in Australia. You can see that social media and business marketing are they're the kind of crux of what we're actually going to be discussing. Then lastly, we have Australia, and Australia in this instance is a limiter. So what it's going to do is it's going to take all of the information that we find about social media and business marketing, and it's going to then limit it to that context of Australia. Okay? The plan your approach before we actually go off and start searching is really important. And I see this a lot. Sometimes, particularly people who are new to academia, they will get something like an assessment task And they will think to themselves, all right, this says discuss the impact of social media on business marketing, etc. And they will go out and they'll try and find an article that does exactly that. You're not necessarily going to be able to find an article that discusses the impact of social media on business marketing in Australia. And the reason for that is that that's what we want you to do, right? What you need to do instead is go out there and find information about social media and business marketing. So that's this gather the information, particularly in Australia if you can. So we're going to gather that information. Then you're going to read some of that information to to inform your position on that topic. Okay, so you might from that begin to see that the impact of social media has been that Twitter is more heavily used than, I don't know, historical methods of business marketing. And so that sort of background reading is going to help you plan your actual discussion, and it's also going to then help you adjust your search terms. So from doing that background reading, you might pick up extra keywords like Twitter, like Insta, there are a whole heap of different words that you might get. And then you're going to adjust those search terms. And from those adjusted search terms, you're going to gather more information. So you can see these arrows going backwards and forwards. It's a really iterative process. You're not going to get the search nailed the very first time you do it. You're going to go out there, gather your information, and then you're going to keep tweaking it until you have the information that supports the stance that you have formed on a particular issue. Are there questions?
There is a question. So Sally Murray Walsh has asked, can you have multiple limiters in a question? I said yes, but would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, absolutely. So it could, limiters, if you think about the limiters that we've got in this particular question, we have Australia. Sometimes it might say things like within the last 10 years. So a date range is often a limiter that you might include. Sometimes it'll be about a particular group of people. Sometimes it'll be about, within government. A limiter is just anything that is going to take that topic and refine it further down. So it could certainly say in Australia within the last 10 years. There's no limit to the number of limiters that you could be asked to include. Anything else? Well, all right.
That's all for now.
So what we're going to do now, though, is actually get in there and have a look at what this looks like when we start searching. So bear with me for a second. I'm going to go over. This is the university's main website. I want to show you first that in this little hamburger menu over here, if I click on that, there is always this library link here. And if I click on that, it's going to take me to the library homepage. I would start my search here. I'll go down, and in actual fact, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to type social media. Now, the only reason I've typed in social media here right now rather than all of those other terms is purely because I want to start by getting us over to the main library search page. So library search is the library's main discovery tool. It searches all of the library resources that we have. And so that's things like all of our databases, all of our books and ebooks, journals, kits, physical collection, absolutely everything. So it's a really good place to start if you want really broad surface level searching, okay? You'll see I'm actually working from home today, and for some reason it's not logged me in. So just bear with me for a second while I log in right now. Now, if you're on campus or if you have already logged in, you'll have these options in the top right-hand corner whenever you're on this page. And I'm going to start by showing you this help resource, because if I click on this, what I want to direct you to first up is, firstly, there are lots of help resources here to do with using library search, but there is a really valuable page here called Search Tips. And I'm going to use some of these search tips as I actually start doing some searching here. Excuse me for one moment. Okay, sorry. Just so I'm going to use some of these. So we have things like the Boolean operators, which will allow us to combine search terms. We have our phrase searching is something that we use to get really specific results. So there are little tricks and tips in here. Now, if we go back over to our actual library search, the first thing that I'm going to do is, if you remember our actual our topic from before, I'm going to use the advanced search, and I'm going to start by including both of our sets of keywords. So we had social media, which I'm going to put in inverted commas. Now, from over on the previous search tips page, that's what we referred to as phrase searching. And what that's going to do is it's going to stop me from getting results that are just including the word social and the word media. It's only going to bring back ones where those are actually side by side together as a phrase. I'm also going to include business marketing. I'm not going to put that as a in inverted commas. I think business and marketing don't necessarily need to be in that particular order. So I'm just going to leave it that way for the moment. And I'm going to hit search. Now you'll notice that we haven't actually included our limiter yet. I just want to get a sense for how many of the resources are actually here in this collection using these keywords. So we've got about 600,000 results, which is obviously a lot. There are a few different ways that we can refine our results, and we'll start over on the left-hand side here. So we have a publication date range. If I've looked at my rubric and it said that, you know, I need to be using current resources from within the last 5 years, then I can put in the date range here. I might go, what year are we in? 21. I might go March 2016 to now. And what that's going to do is it's going to refine to everything within the last 5 years. I could also have just clicked this last 5 years button down here. Now, if your academic hasn't specified a time period, I would say that as far as university level study goes, I wouldn't be using anything older than about 10 years old unless it was particularly significant for your discipline. Okay, and when it comes to something like social media marketing, we're going to be looking for incredibly recent resources. All right, so you can see that's already dropped us down by about half. It's up to you if you want to look for information that is in a particular content type. So you can refine over here to things like books and ebooks, journal articles. When you're doing that first sweep in that cycle that we talked about, when you're gathering the information, books and ebooks can be really valuable for getting that broad picture, you know, topic level understanding of topics. And then you might want to, in the sort of next sweep that you do with your more refined search terms, start drilling down to things like journal articles. So if I click on journal articles here, there are 37,000 that are going to come up. And as I said before, sometimes you might want to also be exclusively looking for peer-reviewed journal articles, and we can do that up here as well. So I'm going to click on peer review, and that's going to refine it even further. Okay, so let's see how many we've got. 26,958, okay? So again, this is just social media and business marketing, sort of getting those first bits of information. We still haven't included our limiters from our actual search question though. So if we go back into the advanced now, what we can do a few different things. There is a, what I might do is add a third line here and actually include the word Australia as a search term, rather than specifying that it needs to be published in Australia or that it needs to be, Australia geographic limited. We're going to just add Australia in as a search term, and we'll see what that does to our results. So we're getting 4,500 results here, which are obviously now far more specific for Australia. So what I'm going to do is, if we have a look at some of these, see whether or not any of them are actually relevant to what we're talking about. So we've got the future of social media and marketing. I can't see that there is that much to do with Australia specifically. Oh, here we've got one that's actually specifically about Australia. So that's a bit more relevant, but I'm not getting as many about Australia that I'm really, really hoping that I would get. So there are a few different ways that we can make it a little bit narrower still. And if I go to advanced again, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change where I'm actually looking for particular terms. Now, here we have our field results. What we can do is, if I change this so that it says that we are searching in the abstract of any particular article is going to be sort of a condensed version of that particular article content. So if I'm looking for the word Australia in the actual abstract, there is a much, much, much better chance that that particular article is going to be about Australia or have an actual Australian focus, okay? And I haven't pre-run this search. I'm really, really sorry if it gives us no results. So let's go search and see what it does. Fingers crossed that there are any results. Okay, 451 results. So already this is a far, far narrower search than we have had previously. And this is probably, a lot of the results that we've got here are going to be really high quality and really, really close to the topic that we're looking at. Are there any questions about any of that? No? We're traveling along okay?
Traveling well.
All right. What I will do now then is that I would like to take you away from searching in library search though, and just show you, if we go back to the library homepage, what we can also do is, if we scroll down, there are a few different things. The first is that we have our subject resource guides. If I click on subject resource guides, there are a whole list of these that are going to, I might just click on any one of them to begin with. So say accounting and finance. In here, there are things like the links to the best journal article, journal databases, ebook collections, some sort of web resources for a particular discipline. So if you don't know exactly what you're looking for or where you want to be looking just yet, and you're for some reason not going to start in library search, these are a really great place to kind of get in and get subject specific knowledge and resources. But I'm not going to use one of these right now. Instead, what I'm going to do is go to our databases page, because I'd like to show you why searching in a database is so wonderful. Okay, so these are our database pages. If you know the name of the database that you want to be using, then you can click through by alphabet. I don't know the name of the database that I want to be using, but if we think again back to our search from before, we had social media, marketing Australia. Obviously, social media is a very multidisciplinary topic. And so what we might want to do is actually narrow it down by looking for things, looking for resources from specific business resource collections. So these are our business databases. You'll see we have these best bets here, which are kind of the main ones. I might scroll down though and see what we've actually got. And I'm going to go into this one called EBSCO Megafile Ultimate. EBSCOhost databases are really, really great because there are so many of them that if you can kind of familiarize yourself with an EBSCOhost database, then chances are, no matter what you're searching for, there will be one for the discipline that you're looking in, okay? But this is a great one, particularly for business and multidisciplinary sort of searches. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to just basically replicate that search from before. I'm going to go social media. I'll type in business marketing again. And then I'm going to type in, oh, actually, let's not do Australia just yet. We'll do the same search that we did before. We'll go search and see how many results we get. Okay, so we've got 4,500. Now, if you remember, when we started this search in library search, we had several hundred thousand. If we now go and refine to Australia in that same way, it's brought us down to 188, and we haven't even refined yet to include Australia as in the abstract, or to limit to peer review, or the date range for that matter. So let's go 2016 and see what that's going to do to our results. 104. So my point is, I'll change to scholarly. My point is that if you're finding that something like library search is just far too broad and giving you far too many results, then perhaps it's not the right place for you to be searching, and you need to go off into one of these databases that are more specific to your discipline, okay? Let's just replicate the search for giggles and see whether or not what it actually gives us. 4. So these should be really, really, really relevant when it comes to these particular topics that we've narrowed down here. And if you find that they aren't, then it might just be a matter of going back to the original search, okay? I think that's all that I actually wanted to show you as far as searching, though. Are there any questions, Ben? How are we traveling?
No more questions.
Excellent. All right. So now what I'm going to do, though, before we get back over to our PowerPoint, is that I want to show you back to the library homepage. As I said at the very beginning of this session, while you might be able to find this video online, we'll be putting these up in the on the library pages, so you'll be able to refer back to them later if you would like to. But it's still really important that you know that if you walk away from here and can't remember any of this and don't want to rewatch the video, or there's something that I haven't covered that you wish you had asked, we have so many help contact points that you can reach us on. So we have things like you can email us a question directly. We have text. You can go to our library chat where you can get a sort of instant response. Particularly though, we also have this book a librarian option where you can sit down with one of us for half an hour. So if you've found that you've looked at your assignment and you've pulled out the keywords or the limiters or whatever that you think are the right ones for your assignment, but then when you go off and actually look, can't find anything, it might be that you just need a bit of a hand tweaking those search terms to begin with. And that's what we're here for. So we're not just about, you know, helping you borrow the books. We will sit down with you and help you pull apart your assignment topic yourself and figure out where to search, what to use to search, and all sorts of other things. So you can do that by booking a librarian here. Okay, and I think that that's all that I wanted to cover. So let me get back to my presentation. So as I said, these are the contact methods that we're talking about: chat, SMS, email. You can phone us. There is a phone. There's a number on that page as well. What I didn't say is that if you're on campus, also just come and see us. We are very approachable. There will always be someone at the desk that can give you a hand too.